to dating at her age. It is 2025. So what Caitlyn and I are going to do for the next several minutes, along with you, is lay out our dating goals for the new year. Hi, Caitlyn.
Hi, I am excited to go into a new year with a fresh perspective towards dating because this podcast, to be honest, has actually opened my eyes to a lot of things and made me think about them a lot differently. Dating things.
And then we'll bounce off our dating goals off of Kristin Sokol.
Yes.
She's our dating coach. We've talked to her in a previous episode. If you missed that episode, go back and listen because she gives great advice on how to do a dating profile so it gets attention and, how to be more in the moment while dating.
Yeah, and some of the things that I want to bring into the new year with dating have come from her advice in our previous podcast because she completely shifted my perspective.
Okay, so New Year resolution number 1 for Caitlyn is what?
Be more optimistic about dating. I feel like I have gotten better about this this year, but I think I've always had almost a negative mindset that I'm like, I don't need that. Nah, everyone's out to get me. It's just going to be negative experience, which honestly my experiences have been like, okay, but then they don't always end the most positive. They end up in frustration. So that's why I think I have that, but I'm trying to be, that's not the case for everybody. And if I have an attitude that is, oh, it's never going to work out, or this is just going to be another problem. Yeah, it's not going to, because that's your mindset. So just being more optimistic and being open is my biggest, my number one goal.
So your number one goal. My number one goal is I want to be more at peace with where I'm at in my life. Whether I'm single, I'm looking at dating, or I'm dating. Sometimes I have felt like I'm just not at peace. Like I need something else. Like, why am I not dating? Then when I'm dating, I'm not sure this is working for me. I need to be at peace in the moment that I'm in. And I'm going to work really hard on doing that in 2025. I don't know if it's my number one New Year's resolution, but it's really close to the top.
I'm going to add that as a sub goal to mine because I think I have the same issue of needing to be in the moment.
Sure. We're sharing and stealing our resolutions. Absolutely no ownership whatsoever. Yeah. So, okay, what's your next one?
I'm going to take my own advice because my whole thing is meeting somebody in the wild, which I've gotten better, but I need to go outside more. I need to say yes to when I'm invited places because I do my best, but I'm always like, nah, I'm tired. I don't want to go out, which that is a valid excuse sometimes. But I think I need to be open to just going out and doing anything with my friends. It's not even just saying yes to dates. It's going out and meeting anyone, just as a night out with my friends or going to lunch with my friends. And I need to just be able to balance saying yes to that.
I want to offer you a nugget of advice about what you just said. Like sometimes it is a valid excuse. You said that, like it's okay, I'm tired. Stop making an excuse. Yeah. I had to do that when I committed to getting out more, to going to things that I was invited to in 2024. Whether that's a welcome to the neighborhood party or a gathering in my community, going downtown to meet friends for an event. I had to stop using that as a valid excuse. I'm tired because I found myself using that excuse as my go-to. Yeah. And if you get to the point in 2025 where you're really committed to getting out in the wild more, you've got to dismiss that. Like, oh, I'm tired. You know, unless you have like the flu. Right. Or, you know. Just remind yourself that's no longer a valid excuse for me. I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah. And I think that I do also have to watch something that I fight with all the time is my burnout levels, because if I spend like half of my Saturday doing something, it doesn't mess up my weekend, but then my mind is a little jolted because I feel like I don't have as much time to gather for myself. So that is something that I'm trying to balance. And that just means, focusing on my burnout and what my workload is and trying to fit in a social life a little bit on top of that.
My next goal would be capitalize on my alone time. Remember, we're not lonely. We're alone. Just because we're alone does not make us lonely. So I want to capitalize on my alone time, not by jamming it full of stuff to do, but recognizing that it's precious to have time to myself and what can I fill it up with that, isn't too much to do, but it's just enough. Whether that's a workout, is it a new class that I want to take? Is it meeting a friend for coffee or for dinner? Reconnecting with a friend, capitalizing on my alone time. I used to say many, many, many years ago, before I had kids, when I do have kids one day, I'll never have that same level of alone time again. Well, it turns out as an empty nester, I have a lot more alone time than I anticipated when I was in my 20s, and looking at giving birth to our first child. I do have a lot more alone time. I want to capitalize on that, so I don't accidentally allow myself to fall into a pattern of loneliness.
And that is actually something that I cherish so much, which is why I'm like, mine is almost like the opposite of like, hey, don't be alone so often, because I love my alone time. And I cherish it because I do, you say, using that time to reconnect with friends. I think using that to reconnect with yourself, because that's the quiet moments are when you can really evaluate what you're feeling and what you're doing. And I think that a lot of us keep ourselves busy, which I do this with work. Work is my toxic trait, of just kind of avoiding that alone time. But I love the silence. And I just got a cat. So my cat now.
Congratulations. Does the kitty have a name?
Thomas. But
of course.
He also... He's totally fine to hang out with, but he needs me and he asks for things. So I'm like, okay, so that my time is not only just my time. I have to give a lot of attention. And that's the only thing that I can really compare to having like a family or anything, because there's another living thing in my house. But anyways, I do. I love alone time, and I think that people should spend more time alone. But I, on the other hand, need to get out of the house. So, and
who's going to watch your cat?
Well, I'm just going to go. I'm going to go back and forth. He's home alone right now.
Take Thomas with you?
So I don't know. We'll see. I'm learning. I'm trying to figure that all out.
Cats are not like dogs when it comes to car rides.
Yeah, I'm learning. We're going to see what happens. This is new.
That's fun, though. That's nice.
But and then my third one is when I go out or just at any time, even if I'm alone, be open to all connections, not just having, okay, I'm looking for somebody to date. It's all connections. And this was a tip that Kristin Sokol gave us that really is stuck with me. And I really want to just be open to a friendship, to meeting somebody's sister who I become friends with, who may have a brother who's awesome, that, is really cool. I just think that I can be closed off to just meeting new people, but it's because I like my alone time, all of that stuff I just said. And being open to any connection, because you don't know where it's going to bring you. It may not even get you a romantic relationship, but it could be a new opportunity that takes me in a different direction that I'm not expecting.
Like a friend of a friend of a friend may have a connection.
Yeah, or even just something for work. It could level me up to go somewhere else or something. Just there's a lot of connections out there that sometimes we close ourselves off to.
Well, I love what you just said about that, like opening up that avenue of connections. Because I think when we do go into a situation where we're meeting new people for the first time, we may be scanning the room for that person we can date. Why is that?
They may not be in there.
They might not be.
Their sister might be.
There you go.
Or their brother, or just somebody who wants to be our friend, and then they happen to know somebody. And I don't think I've ever thought about that. But that's not really the incentive of meeting anybody. It's just making any connection. That is, that could bring value.
Well, I think in recognizing that every connection that we make could turn into something even more than what we initially think it might be.
Yeah, and you never truly know. So I think that...
I love that.
And I think that, your discussion of just using your alone time is just kind of our emphasis on romanticizing your life, which we have a short little episode on how to do that. But it's just really... making your life enjoyable by yourself and how to cherish it.
Right. I remember you telling me, order dinners, take out dinners once in a while, treat yourself to a movie. I have been more deliberate about watching movies at home. I'm not a big, movie goer. I've gone to a few movies this year. You and I went last year. You and I went and saw Wicked together. So I have been doing more of that, and just spending my alone time, kind of crafting my life the way I've envisioned it for so long.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot that we can do for ourselves that we don't always think about.
I got one more. And this is based on Kristin's recommendation when we talked to her as a dating coach. And we're going to talk to her again in just a few minutes about what she thinks a resolution should hold for us as we're dating. I want to commit to vastly improving my dating profile when I decide to get back on dating apps in 2025. My profiles, admittedly, have been mostly like an afterthought of really not great selfies.
Yeah.
Very little information about me. I want to be deliberate about that. I want to take the photos that she suggests. Yes, you can have a selfie, but take it in really good light. And not that selfie of you winning, the half marathon. Not that I've won a half marathon, but it's like this isn't a competition to see who can get into the Boston Marathon. You don't need to post that picture, but post photos that would put me in a light that I want to be seen by somebody who wants to date me. So I'm going to be deliberate about that in 2025. It is truly a really big goal of mine is to eventually get up the stamina to get back on dating apps again and use that as an avenue to get connections to men that, I might want to date. But I haven't accomplished that, but I think in part due to my own fault in terms of my dating app profile. It has not been award-winning. Let me just put it like that.
I would say you're probably doing a lot better than most people. I haven't seen your profile.
But look, I mean, that I thank you for that. You've seen my profile, and I appreciate that. But I think I know I can do better.
Yeah.
Right? And I need to do better. And I ought to be putting as much effort into my dating profile actually as I'm putting into my resume.
Yeah.
Right? Because I am looking for a partner, somebody that I can spend a lot of time with, hopefully into the far future. I ought to treat it like that. I ought not to be just slapping stuff on there and leaving stuff blank on my dating profile, which I'm super duper guilty of. And like you said, well, comparing to other people, yeah, but this is my dating profile and I can do better. And I'm going to. That's one of my goals in 2025.
We can always do better. And I think I am still kind of anti-dating apps, but I just think it's my experience. And so that's maybe something I need to change about my perspective. I'll probably give myself 6 months to try to implement what I just discussed about being out in the open a little bit more in person. And then maybe by halfway through the year, I maybe can reevaluate how I feel about dating apps to see how things have been going.
I have actually put calendar reminders in my calendar about getting back on dating apps in the past. Would you ever do that? Or do you
Maybe I should. Yeah. Maybe I should set something for like July. Like, hey, should you get back on the apps? Are you dating someone? Have you tried?
And I reserve the right to push the date.
Yeah, you do. 100%.
Yeah, it gets there, pops up. I set it for like the day ahead. I don't know why. It doesn't really matter. It's like I get an alert the day ahead that I
check-in. Yeah. It's a good check-in. Sure.
And I think about it. I'm like, no, I'm putting this off another 90 days. But I have done that. And then I get back on dating apps, and then I get right back off of them again.
At least try though. If you try,
I think improving my profile is definitely the direction I need to go. That's our goals. In a second, we're going to get our Dating at Her Age friend and dating coach, Kristin Sokol, on the line with us to give us her goals.
Welcome back to Dating at Her Age. We are discussing our dating goals for 2025. We just went through our own resolutions for dating, and now we are going to get some tips from an expert with her perspective.
Hi, Kristin.
Well, hi, everybody. It's so great to be here.
Kristin Sokol, dating coach extraordinaire. So glad to have you back on this show. Your last episode with us that you did with us was such a hit. So much great advice. And that's why we wanted to bring you back on for 2025. Caitlyn and I were talking about our dating goals for the new year. And one of mine, you'll be very proud, was inspired by you, is when I do get back on dating apps to really beef up and improve my dating app profile.
Glad to hear it. There's so much opportunity with dating apps if we can muster the mindset it takes to be successful in them. Then that is a great resolution.
So what would be top of mind? I don't know if you have how many tips you have or whatever, but what's one of the top things we should be thinking about?
Okay, well, I have 3 things on my short list of ways we can be more intentional and more successful in the new year. Right? So I'll start with number 1, which is to use social media more proactively.
What do you mean by that?
So by that, I mean we are, the places we're going, the people that we're meeting out in the universe, we're going to add them on social media, right? So that we can make those, onesie-twosie interactions or connections possibly more sticky. Like they might stick around in the future if we can, grab onto them as like in the social media sort of sphere, right? So we're adding friends when we're out and about places. That way, when we are meeting people, it's not just one and done, that we might be able to create something ongoing, or, sometimes it takes more than one interaction with somebody to figure out, oh, they're part of my tribe, right? We would fit well together as, friendship or possibly more, right? There could possibly be a romantic connection. Like if I had $1 for every client who ended up developing a relationship with the help of social media, I would be a very wealthy woman. So this is a great way to do that. Also, not just adding friends, but instead of just endlessly scrolling through what people are putting out there, like pause and make a comment, especially for friends or friends with potential that you might want to see that you're there and see that you're looking, and maybe offer them a compliment or say, oh my gosh, I've been to Moab too this year and it was so fabulous, right? Instead of just scrolling past and stalking people, right? We want to interject yourself and see if we can get responded to. I've had tons of clients through the years start developing a relationship this way that started with a comment, and then it got a DM, and then it got a phone call, and then it got a date, and then they, ended up happily ever after. So not just endlessly scrolling, but actually doing something, making an impact with your scrolling.
That's a great... And then Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was just going to say that's a great tip, because one of the goals that I listed was go outside more and meet people just in general.
Yeah.
And so don't let it end there. Make sure you get their connections and then stay connected with them is just something that I don't think I was even thinking about.
Yes. That is like social media is such a great tool. And I feel like we're not harnessing the full power or potential of it, but we could, and we're only like, 2 small efforts away from harnessing its full power and potential in our lives. And then I have one more tip for social media use, right? And that is to send direct messages to the people that you're the most interested in.
That's
right?
bold. So, tell us more.
Okay, so let's say that they have just posted pictures that they were at, Thanksgiving Point at the Luminaria, right? And so you send them a message and say, oh, hey, I've been thinking about going to that. Like, how cold is it? How long did it take you to walk through? Just to directly connect you. I'm not saying that you have to ask them to marry you or anything like that, but just let them know that you're there. If you're connected, then you have the opportunity to connect sort of in a way that isn't super public like it is on a timeline.
And I would suppose you'd say if you knew they were single, right, to do that. Yeah, mostly. Sure. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, and even, a new friend that you're courting, this is okay to do, right? If there's somebody that you want to know better in any capacity, certainly in a romantic capacity, absolutely. But there is a lot we can do short of asking somebody out. But if we don't let them know that that we're there, they may forget that we're there. And if we remind them, we have a lot of opportunity and potential that could exist.
I love the idea of gaining confidence and being bold in that space, because I do tend to just, doom scroll through social media, put a like or a love on a picture, and then comment for people I know personally. Like people I know personally, I don't often branch out into people who I don't know personally.
How do you feel when somebody that you didn't realize was watching, makes a comment? How does that make you feel?
I love it.
Yeah, if it's a good comment,
it's the best ever.
Yeah, it feels
right?
good.
That's like a unicorn. Like we're sometimes we're putting stuff out there hoping that somebody that we admire or that we don't know that much about would see it. That makes us feel great. So you have the power to give that to somebody else, and it's very flattering.
Great. I'm looking forward to tip number 2 for our New Year goal.
Okay, you ready for my number 2 on the short list of things that we can do is be discoverable. Be more discoverable in your life.
You have to explain that.
Okay, I am shocked at how many of my clients are in and out of the places that they go, right? They're in and out of the gym. They're in and out of church. They're in and out of a work conference. And they're trying to find an empty corner where they can sit, and they're looking at their phone the whole time. And then wherever they are, the thing ends, and they're in their car. You're just not being very discoverable out in the universe of where people are. I think you guys did an episode of like meeting people in the wild.
Yes.
Like this is what I'm talking about. So that means we arrive, we scan the room, and we look for an empty spot at a table or on a row where there is an empty spot. And then you go introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm Debbie, I'm Caitlyn. Can I sit here? Is anybody sitting here? And they'll more than likely they'll welcome you, right? And we'll have a chance to introduce ourselves. And you just never know what good connections can come out of those really casual connections. I have to say, like, my business, working in this date coaching space, about half of the people who find me come from some casual interaction where I sat next to their sister or their neighbor or their mom's friend, and we got to talking, and it led to something meaningful for me. And this definitely happens for people in the dating space. There are some people who are it's easy to discover who they are and where they are because their eyes are up and they're intentionally interacting with the world around them. Right. So it's not only just showing up at like a meeting or, places where you frequent, but, you're probably having things door dashed to your house. Right. So some stranger comes to your door and drops the food and you bring it in and scarf it down. But you could go to the restaurant and stand in line and be around people and have an opportunity to see and be seen by the world around you. There are countless ways where we have chosen to pick up groceries or have them delivered, but we could push a shopping cart around the store. There are lots of ways that we could get out and be more discoverable. So
I was going to just add to this, as I do dine alone out in the wild by my, I'm dine alone.
For you.
Yeah, I do that. And what I have found is when you sit down, and usually I'll intentionally sit in a bar area because that's where they usually sit single people. They just tell you, go take a seat at the bar because we're not going to give you a table for 8. So I sit there and I'm kind of obviously naturally now go there because I just expect it, being single for so many years. I have met so many amazing people, women, men, some of them on just traveling through, the Salt Lake City area. And when I'm traveling in other areas of the country, I meet people, and I've exchanged phone numbers with them. I have, like you said, followed them on social media. They follow me back. It is fascinating to sit and talk to a perfect stranger. And I also feel like it gives me joy. Actually, it makes me happy. It makes me happy to be out and to be.
It puts so much dimension into your life.
It does. And I love that. So I love that tip. That's a great one.
I will say the bar area is a place that I'm actually afraid to sit, and it may be because of just social anxiety, but that is the place where if you're at a restaurant alone, that you're more likely to meet new people.
They kind of shuttle you there anyway because you're single, so I don't even allow them. Yeah. Is it a table for, they don't give you a table for one, especially on a really busy night. And what I have done intentionally is gone to restaurants that are really popular on really busy nights. And I'm almost always guaranteed a table or a seat in the bar area. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
And as I sit there and talk, at first I feel a little bit out of place.
Well, the bar staff is usually your friend too.
Well, that's another thing is they talk to you.
Yeah, they do talk to you. Yeah.
And it's really great on a Saturday when I've spent the whole day alone and I haven't talked to a single soul. I haven't used my vocal cords at all. And then I get out
those days,
and then they're chatting back and forth with me, and then other people are talking. So I love that tip. That's a good one.
Well, and what this really is about is generating momentum, right? Getting something moving in your social life, even if it's not, a romantic connection, but just even creating social momentum then once the opportunities come along, it's so much easier to, like an object in motion is so much easier to stay in motion. If you see an opportunity, you can, and you're already running, you can just run alongside that opportunity, where if you've got to, think about the full get up and go, you might see an opportunity and let it pass you by simply because it takes too much effort to start the whole thing up. Mm-hmm. Right. And in regards to Caitlyn, your comment about social anxiety keeping you out of the bar area, like certainly we can all understand that. But what I want you and listeners to realize is that it's not like giving a public speech, right? You don't have to sit there for an hour and a half and be really courageous. Usually we're talking about 10 to 60 seconds worth of courage to get over that, gulp, take a deep breath, and I'm going to put myself here. And before you know it, either nothing's happening and it's a dud and at least you did what you could, or you're in a conversation with somebody that you would never have met otherwise. Right? And there have been plenty of times in my life where I have taken a deep breath and gulped and put myself in what kind of feels like a socially compromising situations, like more high risk, and nothing has happened. And then I walk away and think, well, that was kind of a dud, but I didn't die. And there's been so many situations where I've put myself I did this 3 weeks ago. I went to an event. I had plenty of friends that were at the event, but I intentionally chose, and kind of to put myself in my client's shoes, I intentionally chose to sit at a table where I knew no one. And just to feel that sort of, space of anxiety of, will they accept me? Will I embarrass myself? Will we have anything to talk about? And I walked away with, I feel like, 4 new friends who I connected with on social media and will probably, be influential in some way over the next couple months of my life. So it only takes a few seconds. You don't have to, it doesn't last for an hour and a half, this need for courage.
And do you have one final tip for us before we let you go?
I do. And my last one is, of course, it's going to be about a dating app, right? Okay. It's going to be about using dating apps because that's such a big part of the way people meet. And, I don't know if you're aware, but the number one day and moment of the year as far as top usage days for dating apps is the first Sunday in the new year at 8 p.m. So if you're going to be using a dating app, be sure you're on and you're ready to go at that day and time because there's more users there than any other time of the year. So if we're talking about taking another swing at dating apps, even though you failed many times before, guess what? Everybody else has too. You're normal, which is to be specific and intentional, right? Which means I'm going to think about retooling my dating app, and I'm not just going to go through my camera roll and pick photos. I'm actually going to I'm going to go get a new profile photo where my hair and makeup is done just right, or where I'm feeling the most confident. I'm getting myself in good light with an interesting backdrop. Maybe I'm handing the camera off to somebody else so I can get a good photo, right? Let's put some intention into taking great photos. And then the second thing that we want to do is be really specific about what it is that we're sharing. Right? No more of this, being super vague. My advice is to be super specific. The goal of what you're putting out there as far as written content, as, answering those question profile prompts, is to engage somebody in a conversation. We don't necessarily need to convince them that you would be an amazing, girl or boyfriend. But we just want to instead limit it to, that would be an interesting person to remark to, right, to share something, right? So we're going to talk about pickleball. We're going to say something specific about a specific popular hiking trail, let's say in Yosemite, right? Then anybody who likes national parks, who likes hiking, who likes the outdoors, has an invitation and an easy way that they can say, oh, yeah, I've done that trail, or, oh, no, I want to do that trail. So we are engaging people because we're sharing really specific things in our profile blurbs. And then the third thing that we can do a better job at with our dating profiles and dating apps is to be more intentional about the way you search on those. So many of us just put these profiles out and expect it to just do the work, but we have to teach and train the algorithms who it is that we like and how we want to be interacting. So that means we have to swipe yes, right? We have to say yes to the kinds of people that we like. And so I always recommend that my clients set a goal, right? You're going to get on a dating app, and I don't want you to spend 6 hours every weekend on a dating app. That's probably too much time. But I want you to get on there and say, I'm going to say yes to 6 people, and I'm going to return any messages that I have, and then I'm going to turn this thing off. Right? So I get on there with the intent of a task that I can do and get done, and then feel great about what I've done. And then I'll check back in tomorrow, and I'm not fully exhausted or loathing it because I just spent so many hours on it the day before. Yeah.
These are great tips, Kristin, as always. Thank you. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you. It's such a pleasure to be with you both.
Yes. I feel like you just took all of our personal goals and expanded them to make them much more effective. And I appreciate your advice so much. And it makes me want to go sit at a coffee shop right now, even though one of my goals is to not spend money on coffee. So I guess I can't do that. But I just want to put myself out there. But I am so grateful for your tips. And will you please join us again in a future episode?
Oh, please. I would love to. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, Happy New Year. And thank you so much for talking to us today. Thanks for listening to Dating at Her Age. We wish you a Happy New Year and hope you can take some of this advice and tips and use it as motivation in your own dating life to level up your connections and just put yourself out there with a positive attitude. We'll see you next Thursday.